Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our downtown committee meeting. I'm going to do a roll call. Rebecca Armandaris. Fran. Here. Marie. Here. Tony. Bowles. Dion.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Susan. Here. David. Savannah. I'm here. Emily. Jeannie. Here. Fred.
Here.
And welcome to Richard, our newest member. All right, public comment. Is there, and I should say for Richard, who is the owner of Colbert. Welcome. All right, any public comment? Tom, come on up. You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah, if you want to stand, you can come. Whatever you want to do.
Sure. Hi. As most of you know, I'm Tom Miller, owner of 7560 Monterey Road, or Temple is. And I'm just here to talk about the parkway.
How about if we do public comment after Fred gives his presentation, since that is on the topic, then you would be able to comment
So
then.
wait till after that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, I just want to say hi.
Okay. Any other public comment? No? Okay. Approval of May's regular meeting minutes. Did all of you get a chance to look at that? I hope. They sent them out. All right, any corrections or omissions that you caught? I did look at them carefully and they seemed okay. Do I have, someone who's gonna make a motion to approve? Okay, Marie moves to approve, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? May's minutes are approved. Before we get into the parklet, I want to have a, parklet discussion. I want to have a real quick discussion about, the members who are no longer coming, we need to replace. We have Tony that has missed 5 in a row. We have Rebecca who's missed 4 in a row. She might come in late, I'm not sure. But, how do you want to handle this? Because we're running out of business people downtown, and we do have, 15 members that are supposed to be present on this committee. Do we go at large? Do we know people who might be interested? I know Vilma, and I forgot her last name. Vilma, Susan, help me out. Vilma, that works with us on Thursday night. She owns.
Yes, the depot.
Right. And she was interested and, in wanting to join the committee. I think she's just kind of waiting to hear how, the committee would like to have her. Do you want me to pursue it with Vilma? Sure, okay. Do you have another person in mind that we can put on to keep?
Dina
50?
was interested, but wouldn't let us.
Dina? Oh, I know, because she wasn't a building or business owner. Yes, you keep making me the bad guy on this. Thank you, Dion. If you want, we can ask Dina. Okay, here's Rebecca. Okay, so let me go ahead and pursue Vilma. And we will remove Tony. And we'll go from there. If not, then we will just see who else is interested. Okay, Brad, you're on for parklets. Brad is a committee of one. He did all this hard work on his own.
So I had a lot of the last, when I researched trying to find part of the program that already established, and we don't want to do this, we end up doing this. Kind of just going to the cities, visiting cities, and looking through all the information, but also realizing that we, as a committee, can make the recommendations and then you over the council. I don't think the discussion about how high, how wide, how that at the moment, but I just want to share that the research that I found is speaking with different city managers and city council members. So, and I'm going to do the presenter feedback. So, obviously, a little bit about where we're at. Back in 2005, the downtown specific planning included outdoor dining. Then in 2013, we had a parcel program. That parcel was built where at the time there was a brewery, now a temple, which is on the bid. And in 2023, lot of time. We have recommended development part to economic development, which, you know, in the cities who are currently doing that succeeding at one another factor, obviously, also. We see momentum happening in different cities throughout the state of California. And back on January 22nd, council voted for 3 to pursue a plan for permanent partnerships. Right, so that's kind of a time that things stand and kind of looking at the different parts that shares with everybody on the committee. So you can all those rooms there may be more than these here in particular really stood out. Also, one they played back in May 2023, also in June 2024, and Morgan Hill June last year. And many of the common features that they all had, obviously, is they all had defined area specific designs. That's one of the things that as a committee, as council, obviously with some uniform look, something that's really appealing, and making sure that they all look very similar. And obviously creating guidelines, clear permitting and encroachment process. It's one of the things that we hear from business owners, but also folks who are really interested in saying they need to know what the process are and how to go about doing it. Obviously, again, as a council, as a committee, we do an annual review or renewal. That's what the council can do. Some of the cities what they've done is created something and they've done a program for up to 5 years, and after that 5 years, they've come back and re-examine, see how things are, and they can adjust or they can get rid of the program. Some of the things that some of the considerations in working with these cities and looking at how they kind of constructed their program. First and foremost, I think cost is one of the big issues of concern. Construction, permits, and fees. Obviously, again, I think the grading programs made it easier for folks to grade part of it and go through the process. And then obviously the design, location, size. As I mentioned earlier, the dimensions and the number of spaces on it. Again, a lot of these are going to be in front of your business, and you end up taking some parking spots. And then what type of materials and design features, obviously the furniture fixtures, and then those safety protocols. What areas are we going to use? And obviously what's acceptable to use, right? And then kind of the timeline of the program, start to finish, the application review of permit, insurance, if we are going to create a process, obviously we should have a timeline. It's 2 months, 3 months, 30 days, whatever we have to come up with something like that. And obviously the maintenance, ongoing requirements and updates on departments. And then continue that general guidelines for size and type. One example that I looked at, looking at Morgan Hills, again, kind of trying to create something that is very similar to our downtown, but again, for us not having to spend a lot of staff time in creating something new. So looking at Morgan Hills, one, they developed a template, created a kit program, and what they did is they created 2 different template options within the estimated cost range of roughly $20,000 to $25,000. They complied with all requirements, all requirements, EDA, space, all of that good stuff. So again, that's one of the things that they did, and they also created a do-it-yourself manual. So kind of 3 options for Morgan Hill. So design 1, design 2, or if the city of Gilroy we're going to allow folks to do it on their own, then we create a do-it-yourself manual with very specific information is what required. So we're not just allowing folks to go out there and create whatever they think is reasonable or feasible. So one of the things they did, I think it worked really, really well. By doing this, by having the city do this work ahead of time, the advantage of reducing cost, construction time, and make sure it allows it to have a cohesive look, making sure that it looks like how we want it to in downtown. And obviously, it shortens the design review process. And kind of looking at the different, example that I mentioned, here's one from, so you designed for one cost from this here was roughly $25,000. You see kind of what this consists of, obviously, the different planners, you know, what do we want in our designs? So, you look at this here, it's one example of how already looked at theirs. So they laid it out for everybody, so this is what we expect, this is what's allowed, and then they can kind of use this to kind of help create their project. But again, the city did the design, the city contracts individuals to come do the work. So the property owner or business is liable for cost. And then example number two, very similar to example one. Okay, so example number two, you'll see the different types of materials that folks are using here, but it's all been laid out for the different designs and parts. We're not, again, we're not allowing folks to just bring whatever they want here. We're giving them different options. And again, this is something that the city's creating, and you have the option to use whatever materials have been laid out.
Right, can we see slide 9?
Yes.
Picture.
And kind of looking at kind of the process, perfect process, I think that for us is probably going to be one of the biggest things that we really truly need to hammer out and get that out. Simple issue. We will allow individuals to upload and submit that directly to our website. Obviously, we're seeing that are required, the application, the dimension, proof of insurance, property owner's approval, I can't happen without that. And if you're gonna go beyond that, food and beverage, permits need for that, approvals. And step 3 is the fees, encroachment permits, security deposit, and then you'll be able to upload all this information onto the website, and it hopes that within 2 weeks, we'll be able to have review that and get back to the members. And then obviously here, if you look for, so again, permit fees can estimate anywhere from $700 every 5 years. Security deposit about $1,000, and it is refundable once the construction area starts moving. And then the insurance, obviously, the general liability is anywhere from $1 million, roughly about $1,000 to $1,500 a year. And if you need to rent anything in the spots, obviously you look at about $1,000 for each parking spot that's used. So again, this information is not only going to be more of the other cities that look at as well.
$1,000 was a month, a year?
$1,000 a year for each parking spot. So again, we're trying to be reasonable, but we're also trying to generate funds. If the city has to charge of maintenance, whatever it may be, we have this funds available. And obviously, again, what are the operational requirements for this? So making sure that we keep it clean. All this will go back onto the business owner of the property, or making sure that we're working together. And it's just not something that they build and expect the city's going to be out there every day clean. And obviously, Palo Alto has a very good program, obviously, and again, some people also obviously again, there are dimensions, if we work at top dimensions, but they be 6 feet wide and they can be up to 12 feet long. So they do have specific, width and size. Some of the other cities, obviously, it works with the space that you have. And I wanted to turn that. Thank you, Frank, for setting that a little bit. So in summarizing all this, again, so our job obviously is to make recommendations for a permanent part of the program, and we would allow staff to provide a draft that outlines the specific requirements, setback barriers, drainage, and obviously one of the big issues is the ADA compliance. And then have clear specific design specifications, make it easy to understand and cost effective, because I know, when we originally talked about this, and I believe when the city staff went out and asked most of their interested, we didn't have a cost associated with it. So, if I'm this one, it's probably $40,000, may not be interested in this. And we would design pre-design templates within a cost range. If we decide we wanted to be up to $20,000, and we work at that, we may have all the process, cost of permits, fees, insurance, so whoever's interested will know right up front what the cost, and we develop a maintenance agreement. The applicant will sign, obviously, there'll be ongoing, requirements and things that the business owner needs to do. And then we would review the program annually, we would amend, obviously, we could decide, renew, modify, the program at the end of 5 years. So again, this is not a set in stone program, is to see it annually and come back to what it looks like. And if the council 5 years from now says it's not working for us, we have the option. So kind of this is what I found while researching the cities and some of the similarities that have, also what the benefits are. That's it. Any questions?
Well, I have a comment. Thank you, council member. I could tell you put some time into this. However, this is right where the committee stopped in May. And we have been discussing for a couple of meetings, the requirements of what a parklet would look like for downtown Gilroy. Height, width, materials used, anything. And so Councilmember Tovar had suggested a subcommittee that would work on it and bring it back to us in August. And we didn't get that information, because we discussed it in May. We were at a stalemate on what people really wanted, and we just kind of were spinning our wheels, and we felt that it was very, very important to have guidelines down, where at this meeting, we could talk about, is the height where everyone, if the majority was in agreement with what's the width, what's the materials, et cetera, how much, what were the fees going to be? Were we going to charge monthly fees for parking places? So,
So maybe you didn't hear what I said. I understand what you're saying. That's one of the key pieces to it, but the city needs to work to find out what those, what that is, because again, given the ADA requirements, given the space that we have, but what Morgan Hill and Palo Alto has can be completely different than what we have here.
right, and the city said they didn't have time to do it, so they were giving it to the subcommittee, to this downtown committee to do and present to the city staff for more further discussion. In other words, for those in the audience, what today's meeting was never to decide whether we were going to get rid of parklets or continue them. It was to do the requirements of what it would look like. We finalize it, we give it to the city, they look it over, they come back with what they want to do, what they want to accept or reject. I guess the whole purpose was to say, if I was a building owner or a business owner and I wanted to put in a parklet, I would want to go down to the city to get a piece of paper that had all the requirements on it. So I would actually know. That is our task as this committee, to give something to city staff on what a person could build. So
I mean, I think the summary was helpful. I think
yeah,
the
but we
outline
heard
was,
this, yeah, but we.
I think it's helpful because, we're seeing what other cities are doing, what the guidelines need to be. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable not being somebody who comes from building planning or code enforcement, working out dimensions. I think we can work out
We'll see.
how
Rebecca.
many,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not done. I
Okay,
could see how many parking spaces, like, I think we can work that out. How many parking spaces? Do we want it all to be uniform? I think that kind of discussion can happen here. And I think that making sure that it's not prohibitively expensive, or that the standards aren't, don't prohibit people from pursuing it, right? I think that's the decision that we make here too, right? So it's not necessarily, are we gonna allow them or not allow them, but are we gonna allow them in a way that makes it attainable?
yes, you missed the last few meetings. That's exactly, you're absolutely right. That is exactly what we discussed at those last few meetings. And so we were getting down to the specifics, but we could not come up with a consensus on what we actually wanted. We were kind of all over the board. And so we were realizing that we needed a subcommittee that was going to come back that addressed what,
Mhm.
we already had agreed, you
Yeah,
know, on what
yeah.
you just mentioned. But we needed the specifics, and I was really hoping today we could get those specifics, discuss them, and then move on. Because we've got to move on with this topic, and.
So you want like,
so- Hmm?
you want actual dimension?
Well, yeah, we had to give that was our task back in May. We had to give specific. So Rebecca, like if you were coming and saying, Carol, I want to build a parklet, you know, I could say, okay, you know, this is what the city has come up with. And we could just give it to
Right.
you and all the, and with including all the
Yeah,
requirements.
at that point, we were leaning more towards stuff that could be removed easily. If the business goes out of business, the city can go in and remove it. And we were talking about how high, what kind of materials. And it seems like we're still in the same place that we were.
Mhm.
And we were talking about how many
How many?
in the same street, how many parking spaces are you in fact going to consume with parklets? Keeping in mind that most of the downtown business owners are not actually interested in parklets today. Right? Might change in the future, but that's what we know today.
And it consists of several, yeah, all absolutely correct again, but we have to build a template to make those decisions where we want to go, right? We can't say, well, this is what they're doing here. What we have here in Gilroy is much different than Hollister, Palo Alto, the space, right? So, to say that, this is something that we have to go out and measure everything, no, that the city should already know this information. You say, here's a template that we're using from Morgan Hill, from Palo Alto, whatever it may be, use this and incorporate what we have here in the city, right? 'Cause I can't say, let's charge no more than $20,000. You can't do that because our spaces are much different than other cities.
But Fred, that's what the subcommittee was supposed to
But
come back with.
okay, I'm not done, but you understand what I'm saying. I understand that, but I'm also saying that our space is much smaller than every other city I want to go visit, right? So I can't go to, Roseville or Hollister and say, well, let's do it this way. Because in measuring their space is much different than ours. So what I created here's a skeleton of what a program looks like, what it should consist of, what we need to make sure it happens. And then once we put all this together, then we can come out with all the dimensions, costs, all of that stuff. That's what I thought we were gonna do.
Well, that's what was supposed to have been done for today. Okay, I'm gonna throw this out. And I want a subcommittee. I want a subcommittee that with designated people that can come back with these ideas. And I'd say October. I don't think we'd be ready in September. But this is what the city's asking from this committee is to give everything you just said written down. So when it comes back to us, we can go ahead and discuss it. Do we like it? Do we want to expand it? Do we not expand the parklet program? I'm saying expand the height, the width, whatever it is. Do we want to charge monthly for the parking spaces that are being used? That is what this subcommittee will be tasked with. And your focus question would be, if you were a building owner wanting to build a parklet, what would you want? Just like Fred said, what would you want to see on a piece of paper that are the requirements for this parklet? So that we can look at it, see it, massage it, and get it in some kind of a final draft that we present to the city, because yes, the city is the final say on this. But they want something from us, because you're all, you know, business and building owners. They want something from us on what you would like to see. Do I have, go ahead, Chidi.
Once it's developed, is this something that goes to the planning department at all?
Jimmy, where does it go?
It might, depending on what zoning or new ideas come up. Could, but it would also go to the council.
Right, but I think what Jeannie's saying is like,
Would it go to
we would
planning
draft,
first?
we would give you probably something in writing. And I think Jeannie's asking, where would it go next?
Well, it's an encroachment to the public right of way, so it should really be in public works, like the first part that went through at Tempo. But as far as the design, I don't know if it's right for me to speak on this, but as far as the design and cost, I'm not sure the subcommittee's gonna come up with like a rough design. And then take it to designers and figure out what, a design would be created, and then a cost estimate from a contractor, so that you all know that, hey, this is the cost to build is really $20,000, $5,000, or X dollars. And then the property owners would then have a real idea, because if the committee's gonna create the framework, then the city, whichever department it may be, Public Works, I'm assuming that if the design was already approved by the city, then we have to set design, doesn't have to go to planning for approval. It would be, hey, is it safe in this location, is it in the right location, and then the design, and then the cost.
I think that would be really good, and I think that's exactly, you know, if I see this subcommittee as coming up with kind of a rough framework that we could all agree on, you know, height, width, and then what you're saying about the encroachment permits, et cetera, the cost of construction would probably go then to Public Works. And all that would be figured out before it went to council for final approval.
The cost itself, you're probably gonna wanna find a designer who's gonna design this little part of it, who's gonna give you an estimate of cost of construction to build that. That you would have as a note, because if you're gonna standardize, you probably get more out of production having a vendor who's gonna do your design for you and someone who's gonna do construction. But past that, the permitting process and the approval process would have to be ran through a department. Public encroachments run through Public Works approach. Planning looks at it from an aesthetics point of view. Building's gonna look at it from the construction point of view, which is the permitting portion of it. So it would probably more than likely be a program to run out of Public Works, and we'll have discussion with that, but we will, or we will. And then it will get routed to the departments. Once it's permit issuance ready, then we will just issue a permit. We probably have, if it's a set standard, then the approval is just, here's the permit. So design's already been approved, it's like pre-approved, and then they start the construction, we go out there and do the inspection.
So I guess, yes, and so it would be a set standard for all the parklets probably to look alike from what I've gathered from this committee in the past few months.
But to
And-
design something costs money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
no, I don't.
Get
think
a
we're-
designer,
Yeah, I
so
don't
Fred would, the subcommittee would have to,
Yeah, I don't think
Desi-
we're gonna design it. I think what we're going to do is what we said earlier. We give the guidelines to Public Works. So, you know,
Your original question you asked me though
Yeah.
was the approval. And does it have to go through planning commission? Should it have to be approved by city council? I think that's a policy decision of this group because one thing that we have learned in a lot of parklets, you have to get the permission of all the other business owners. What if you don't get that? Then somebody's gonna have to adjudicate whether it still goes through or not. I don't know if you want staff to.
I don't know. See, that's
I don't
something that we might want to put in if we have. I think this is gonna go a little bit deeper with the new subcommittee to actually look at, all those little
Well,
details.
let me ask this question real clear. So again, guidelines, what we want to see, right? The specifics with dimensions, this, and that, that's a whole different animal, right? Because we cannot sit here and it's approved, say we want it 4x5, we want this, we can't do that at this time.
Why?
Because we don't have guidelines. That's what I was trying to do here. Let me finish, let me finish, right? So here's the skeleton of what possible guidelines, procedures can happen. But I can't say, well, I recommend 4x10. That we can't get to that point yet until we get all the other specifics down first. So you're wanting to be up here. I agree with you. We want this done sooner than later. But if we sit here and say, well, we want 5 feet high, 10 feet wide, and then the city goes back and says, we can't do that.
Well,
I'm asking.
yeah, go ahead, Chidi.
Also, you had mentioned, Fred, that in 2005, it was in the specific plan. So there must be some things already in place that if someone came down to the city that wanted to do a park, must be some type of step or something that was established in the past. Is that a yes or no?
I would assume, I mean, I would assume yes. I would assume if in 2013, if there was we built the one that's currently in front of Temple. So there has to be something out there. I don't know where it's at. I mean, that's a city.
I don't know, let's ask,
Yeah,
because,
people are, oh, you know, are
you know, do you know what was this, twenty thirteen, anyone? Tom, you know, oh yeah, okay, Tom, how did
There
you,
you go, Tom.
how did your parklet come about?
Thank you, Fred. That was a great presentation, and that what he mentioned is exactly what I had to go through to get that. It was, we worked with HIPPO, we worked with the city, Cindy, we worked with everybody. We designed it, we manufactured structurally to the city, basically. It wasn't, we didn't say anything about it. I mean, they said they wanted like a Fort Knox, they wanted a car to be able to hit it and not affect anybody inside the parklet. We did. Costs were way more than what we guys are talking about that we paid. But in a sense, it was a very thought through process. We had multiple meetings with the city, with planning, with engineering, with public works, and, to get this thing going. And the one of the major reasons was to re-energize downtown, and it has. I mean, that block has had more people, more new businesses in it than any block downtown. And I represent, and it has more eyes looking at Temple, bowling alley, because it's there. People are looking more at the parklet and exposing and seeing, oh, what's over there? So they're actually looking, so there was a process, it was, in the old agreement 2005, it's staged, but a lot of it was done in meetings like this. We had lots of meetings about, all right, we want it structurally sound, we want to be able to make it safe and comfortable for people, so we put gas, the gas heaters there and everything, so that was kind of all part of the overall design.
So as a building owner, would it be helpful? Let's just pretend you never built one. Would it be helpful for you to be able to come to the city and say, I want to build a parklet? What are the requirements? And then you get a piece of paper that talks about dimensions, materials, structure, demand,
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much decided, like I mentioned, they said they wanted structurally sound, they wanted it, that's why the big plan is about the site, they want to make sure a car can't just deviate into it and hit people, so, it's very important. A car could run right into it and it'd be like, nothing happened.
right? But I mean, would it be helpful to know like how tall it should be, how wide? What kind of, umbrellas would you have, or would you have a roof on it, would that be helpful? Because then now
Yes, it would.
you coming in, you would know exactly how much money this was gonna cost you. You would know all the permits, you would know everything, and then you could take that piece of paper home, look at it and say, do I really wanna do this? Or yes, I do, no, I don't,
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, although personally, I think going through a city that has all parklets and look exactly the same is more. I mean, they look not too bad, they look tacky, I think personally. I mean, Pleasanton did it, I mean, all the cities are doing it that way. I think a little variety in the parklets that kind of caters to maybe the restaurant, granted, or whatever business it is, maybe that business will change. I mean, you don't make it too dramatic, but add a little variety, make it seem like it's a walkable, nice downtown where there's different things, like different buildings, different businesses, different parklets, different, that's why you have planners, along the business, along downtown, because you don't want just a curb. You want, so that's just me personally. I mean, granted, you want standard, but the standards are, you can't do standards of height inside, how many parking spaces in front. That would be smart, yeah. So to give them an idea,
right.
to give them an idea of how they start designing it. And then, what structurally, it sounds like now most of the parks now are built like the Temple. And, so I mean, that'd be good for everybody else trying to build.
Sure.
That's 3 times.
All right, Jeannie, then Terrence.
We did talk last time in a question, Tom, too, about no more parklets or not having any on Monterey Street. Did you have to get approval to the state highway? Did you have to get approval, anything from the state?
No, I don't think so.
Monterey Street's not.
That's the highway.
First Street is not Monterey.
Yeah.
Just a
Well, it
portion
used to
of
be
Monterey.
before the 101 in Monterey,
Yeah,
and so now they don't recognize that as.
that's all there.
The only portions like First Street to Leesley, that's part of the 152 route, but not. That's the rest.
Before the 101, that one.
And
Yeah, it went.
Terrence?
Was the last meeting, and one of the things that wasn't really exciting, as a little bit part of the course is actually where, not the what. I don't believe that was fully resolved, in terms of where do you want to have this about designing it off. And Brett's presentation is really good and stuff, Fort Hill is really good, because it's not, it's out dining, it's not dining guy. So it's not just partner decisions. It's actually where to put tables and chairs, on and getting approval to have sidewalks. So it's not a one size fits all. We have big departments. So I think the real decision to start with is where's the consensus on where we're going to have these things downtown, or where are we comfortable having certain types of things downtown because of all of the conflict or issues that we brought up in terms of whose parking spaces and how many and all of these things, which I think is really contentious.
Mhm. I know it is, it's maybe, a tough decision.
I have a question for Tom.
Sure.
How many parking spaces does, that parklet take up?
One.
Just one parking space? Okay. Oh, because of the, the way it's,
Parking.
yeah. Okay.
And
Does it not go in front of another business though? Does it not go in front of another business?
Well, all angle parking goes.
So yes.
The parks.
Right. Understood, but yeah,
yeah, the park is,
It blocks about 20 feet of the entrance to the rolling,
right,
or 18 feet.
right.
So it is.
Things that we would want to address going forward.
It is encroaching building.
and also we have to think, yeah, but one space, but the idea is that no other, maybe this subcommittee would talk about no parking could block another business's, front. Also, Hippo with the new law of 20 feet from a crosswalk, and then this park that's built right next to a fire hydrant. How are those going to be addressed with the new laws?
So we consulted our attorney, our city attorney. And he took a look at AB 413. And I can send this to Jimmy, and then Jimmy can distribute it out. But his response is the question posed as to whether AB 413 affects the location or regulation by the city of the two restaurant parklets that have been established pursuant to city authorization. My conclusion is that AB 413 does not affect the city regulation of the two parklets. It only applies to vehicle drivers and restricts parking in certain designated areas, which might incidentally be in front of a parklet. It does not impose any duty of regulation on part of the city in relation to the parklet. If you have any other questions about application of AB 413, do not hesitate to.
No, that's fine. That's good to know.
And the fact that they have the cross, that was started, the crosswalks all along downtown was being able to hit that light, that flashing, so they put them on all.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
So, couple things. So, yeah, thank you for those comments. So, yeah, moving forward, obviously, we have to look at what we have, obviously, again, the Golden State Brewery Temple one was built back in 2013, right, by the city, correct? So I'm assuming the city did all the research and everything that was needed to happen to make sure that we were doing something that was correct, and not now 10 years later saying, oh, we can't have this, we can't have that. So to me, that baffles me, is how do we do a project, have it approved, and then 10 years later, oops, nope, we did it
Not
wrong.
the state.
Right, no, but going back, again, I want to reiterate what I'm saying, my presentation was, let's create some sort of template here, because as Hippo just said, there's so many pieces that go along with it, right? I mean, we have to get, a building code up to spec, all that good stuff. We need to know that stuff before we can say, we want this, we want that. And like Terrence is saying, yeah, it's a combination of parklets and outdoor dining, whatever it may be, but we have to know what those specifics are. And going back to what Gene just said, if we have something already in place, how come the city is not saying, this is what we have, let's utilize it, let's kind of, massage it or whatever. There's no discussion to it. All I keep hearing is, well, we don't want the city staff to work on this. But in reality, it's part of the city.
Well, I don't think we actually said that.
Well, that's what I keep hearing.
Well, now listen again then.
No, I'm listening. I
The
just keep
city,
hearing.
okay, listen, the city wants this committee to come up with requirements, which was what your subcommittee was supposed to do. We're gonna try this again. And keep in mind, folks, who gets on the subcommittee, you are coming up with requirements. Keep asking yourself, what do you want the parklets to look like? Go back and look at the cities that have done it. What can you live with? What can you bring to us in October?
And where?
And where they
Where
would
is
be,
important.
all of that. Do I have 3 or 4 people who would like to do that? You guys are gonna have to meet, you're gonna have to do a little bit of research. If we don't have anyone picking it up, then we just look at the city and say, we're not doing it,
Oh, how about we say that?
I don't know. I don't see any hands.
Why
up.
would we not?
Do you see hands?
Let me finish. Why would we not say, okay, you know what? We don't have folks that want to do it, right? Then let's put it on the city and city come up with something. What did we have in the past? Let's use the templates we had in the past. Right? Some.
Or look into the specific downtown specific plan and see what's in there.
Well, let's have everyone think about it.
You know, let's, to research up on who, to look at that specific plan from 2005, to
And-
look what we prior had, there's been a couple of parklets that have been done, you know, in the past, kind of at least start there.
If we
That's
don't,
fine.
we end up with a very much a chicken and the egg, right? We can't create a design if we don't know how much it costs, and we can't spend any money on how much it costs because we don't have a design or designer, like we're stuck.
Yeah, I
Like,
would say
this
to go out and
committee
hire a
is,
Designer, but
no, but
And how do you know?
I don't feel, Fred or other folks can reasonably be tasked with that because they're not designers or planners, or builders.
But they don't have to be a designer to say the height, width, where are you gonna put it, how many
I
parking
disagree.
places? Well, then I'm
They're-
sorry.
In general, I think, yeah, like where
Yeah,
and height, I mean,
Yeah.
and how many parking spaces.
there you go.
Which streets, I mean,
Yes.
this is downtown, right? So
That's,
it could
that's
be
exactly.
all of downtown if we wanted.
That is what
Um,
the city wants from the committee, but general things, we don't do permitting, we don't do, the design cost, but we give them the general ideas of what it would look like. Do we have 3 to 4 people that would like to look into our existing one? Add thoughts to it of what you would like to bring forth to the downtown committee to look at?
Fred, you're gonna stay on the committee?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll join
Okay,
you.
So we've read Rebecca,
Danny's president.
Danny, thank you.
Question.
Oh, question, okay. But no, you want to be on it?
I will.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
In your research, you, had examples from Palo Alto. Do you have their specific guidelines?
I do.
Except
Those guidelines being very, probably definitive.
Right.
And would we be able to look at those guidelines and change what the variables might be on those guidelines? Just those to fit what would suit us. So at least we have a starting point to, so we don't have to reinvent all of that. That's been tried to prove it, right? So it takes the basic guidelines. And variables in those guidelines. We can have this committee adjust between size, dimension.
You can actually Google any city and put in parklets, and the cities will come up with every specification that we're talking about that we're gonna give to
To
cities.
try to reinvent the whole
Exactly.
process.
No, I agree with you. And that's kind of what the only concern that I had and why I just don't want to incorporate is just, I don't know what ours are.
Right, well, that's what.
Which is like-
Then
Oh, no, I know, but I'm saying,
look at what they're using and see how that applies to their locale. And then say, well, this is what we have to change, because that won't work here. And then we will be able to physically walk and take a look at what would work here.
Susan?
Carol, I'm pretty confused. I think a number of numerous meetings, we came up with cities we looked into. This is what this city did, this is what this city did. We all heard it, we talked about it. We talked about size, we talked about color, we talked about material.
Yeah.
We talked about streets it shouldn't be on.
Mhm.
And now you're asking us to raise our hand and do this all over again?
Yep.
We had some specifics.
Yeah, because I know we did,
We
but
had some
we
agreement.
could not, well, we didn't get majority agreement. That was the problem.
Because they weren't here.
Well, no, I took, well,
We didn't have a quorum.
we had, no, we've had a quorum at every meeting, but I think in the main meeting, we only had, 8 people present, and half the committee wasn't here. And from the 8, I don't know if we were getting majority votes, because that's when we sent it over to a subcommittee to say, please come back with, a list of requirements. Just like what Danny, you're saying, every city has that listed on their websites. It's really easy to look up.
Yeah, it was very.
But this committee member said, well, I looked at this town, and this is what they have,
Yeah,
we talked about.
yeah, I know, we talked.
So then we'll use those minutes to.
Yes.
right,
To
so we have to
start.
get to the point where we all prove that, right? I agree with you. I mean.
Or at least the majority of it.
And then we can utilize that
plus,
into this, right?
See, we didn't have, I think we had like 4 or 5 that wanted this, but we didn't have the 8. Jack can push it forward.
We have to have 8.
Yeah, we're 15, so you'd have to have 8 votes to get, that was the problem. It was not the majority at the May meeting, and that's why we sent it down.
And
Yeah.
One of the main reasons to scroll parklet is we have the 2 parklets are there, they're on site. They're not, to me, they're approaching other people's buildings, you know, they're not maintained. So shouldn't that be one of the first things we start with, is getting these things cleaned and maintained and everything else? I mean, here we are.
That surely could
All
be
of this,
from the
and
subcommittee.
It's been a year and nothing's happened. The private coming out, basically change building.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Yeah, now I know. Yes.
No,
No.
and then once they figure out the cost, they will not build.
See, that's it.
Well,
Now
that's-
we're showing interest, but these
Let's
two.
get,
But there's also folks that have shown interest, right, on the other survey that we did, there was business owners and building owners who showed interest in doing that. But there were some, where you can't say that there weren't any, because there were some,
Very few.
Yeah.
That's not saying.
yeah, there
Yeah.
were some.
very
So
few,
we can't
and
discount what they
the
said.
guy that's gonna- The cost for a park, this, it's gonna, they'll never survive.
Right.
And we need
We
to
need
stop mixing parklets with outdoor dining. They are different,
They're-
so everything you put up there for Morgan Hill was outdoor dining.
And
And that is not
And
parklets.
that's a good
So that should not be up there.
I need to go to public comment. I forgot. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, not good business owners around town, and I tell you what, choose an example, Odie's, right? Odie's is a small little business there, they have packed in the mornings. That's a business that can thrive on the park. And they got the annual park. So they would, maybe take up 1, 2 spaces, but then again, to the building, he's got to make a decision whether to spend $25,000-$30,000 on a park and maintain it. And only have a commitment for 5 years if something were to happen. And then the city can just, tell them, you just wasted your $30,000 plus $1,000, a year for each parking spot, whether it's 1 or 2. And then the design, just like what Fred was saying, there's parallel parking, and there's angle parking. So you're gonna have to adapt. Sometimes there may be an island. So you now figure out, okay, it's gotta be ADA, right? So you gotta get in there, and you gotta either go to the level of the curb to be able to have access to it. Depends on where the access, you have to use the island to get to it. But these are things that business owners and the business owners and the tenants both have to have an agreement to be able to, have something there that they can actually make money on, give the taxes, and move on from there. It's gotta make sense, but it's hard for any business owner to go out there and just drop $35,000. And then not know what's gonna happen in 5 years. 5 years is short time, it's not that bad. But that's something that they have to consider, because I tell you right now, like, one business here in town that can use an outdoor park more than anybody would be Odie's.
But they have to be willing to pay for it, though. See, that's the crux. So we can say, I don't want the committee getting caught up into what businesses could use parklets, because it's not our decision to tell anyone who can use a parklet or not. It's up to that building owner and business owner to do this. So I want one more person on this committee that's not a council member, because I want balanced, anyone.
Do we have vacancies on the committee, right?
We
On
have
our
one,
full committee?
yes.
Fred, who's on your committee, Fred? Did you have a second person? Yeah, okay.
Anyone sitting
But
here?
can we make a suggestion, like Terrence brought up, Maria brought up, I know this is focused on apartments, but could there be a caveat to this where there is a suggestion for looking at outdoor dining as options because of the financial and the whole part of apartments that, and we all know we're trying to get away from the park. was originally the
Right.
thing, we're not trying to endorse it. So maybe we give an alternative or a solution, you know, with outdoor dining, because the site brought big on Fifth Street Pocket there was some parking spots that were removed. I mean, they have plants there, but maybe the plants get removed and that is done when you put tables out, later there's a restaurant or using for buying funds in the evening.
I would love to see the subcommittee come back with something like that also, you know.
Outdoor
a good
dining
suggestion.
options or parklet options?
Both at this point. I mean, if all of a sudden the subcommittee comes back and says parklets aren't gonna work, how about outdoor dining? Outdoor dining would
I
be
think that's-
easy. They're not really spending money.
Yeah. Let me ask this
I think
question.
that's a lot.
During
That's
the,
expansion
during
for
COVID,
subcommittee.
Jimmy, maybe during COVID, did we not have something like that already in place where the city bought furniture for businesses, outdoor furniture?
We just bought a bunch of furniture for the downtown.
But we didn't have a program in place. It's just,
Not really, it was just kind of reactionary to what was going on over here.
I asked the question because it helps us. We have to come up with something if we have.
We have 8 minutes left. Okay, Tom, yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, there's been a lot of talk about, business owners and building owners and parklets, but I think we got, the reason why I put the park there is it was obviously to help out my business, and every tenant that came in was totally for it and, help get the tenant. But we gotta look beyond that. We gotta look at what parklets do to the whole community.
Mhm.
I mean, it makes downtown more vibrant. For people, if you're driving down the street, picture yourself driving down Monterey Street and you see one parking spot. What do you think? You just built a game. You drive by and you see a parking. Oh, something might be going on here. Maybe I'll check this out later on tonight. We gotta get past, it's a building owner, so it's a tenant, although. Tenant was hurt, if that's the part of their way, maybe. Who knows if they would ever make it, but, so you gotta do that, but you gotta think of the overall, what it's doing to the community, what it does to life. That's why every other city incorporates these designs, because they know what it does. It makes people come.
Well, this committee, is not deciding on doing away with parklets. Their assignment is to come up with requirements for a person who wants to.
It's the same in Gilroy, Morgan Hill, Palo Alto, or Hollister. It's the politicians wanting to tell the businesses how to run their damn business.
Yeah, and
I can tell you right now, no business in downtown Gilroy is gonna even look at this because they're all struggling just to survive.
Right.
I talked to 2 yesterday that called me, and depending on what happens at the end of the year, it's gonna decide if they stay in business or not. It's like that for all businesses.
So I don't think we're imposing this on anyone. We're providing an option. And if they do their studies, right, as business owners do, and figure out that a parklet or outdoor dining is gonna work better for them, well, that's their option. And we're providing options that work in other areas. We're providing an option that is the best practice in other areas. It drives a lot. Mountain View, Palo Alto, Morgan Hill, even Hollister have downtowns, right? Those restaurants and those businesses are doing very well,
No, they're not.
right? They're Palo
I
Alto,
own a business in
absolutely.
Hollister, and businesses are closing down.
That have because of the parklets or,
No,
they extended the life of a lot of businesses through COVID.
Yeah.
They did through COVID, and folks enjoyed. Our own parking study that we paid over $100,000 for told us what that outdoor dining and parklets drive business, right? They
No, I
drive
think
foot
it said it
traffic.
we didn't need any more parking, that we had ample parking. We have 5 minutes. We have another meeting coming in. I would suggest for the subcommittee to come back with specific requirements, look at other cities. Then we decide what we pass on to the city, and then we're done in October. Please come in with, the requirements. I am ready to say if one of our at-large people, and I would want the committee to approve it or not, would want to join this committee. I'm not comfortable with just 3 people. I think you need to have more ideas. You could assign cities to different people, so they come in with the requirements specifically, you meet, you get it done and present. What do you think? Do you want to ask the audience if we have any
Hold
at-large
on,
people?
Let's, before we go there, so the subcommittee,
Let
so
me ask you this, has anybody recently asked if they want to put a parklet downtown?
No, that's the
Sarah.
point, I'm exactly.
We have two issues, we have parklets that are not, that don't look good down. Can they be cleaned up or not? We're spending all this time again, no one's asking for a parklet downtown.
Then, all right, then let's,
And if
Well,
we-
no, Carol, we don't get to change the purview of this committee because of this gentleman's comments. We don't get to change that.
I was
We've
just
already
gonna throw the
decided.
question out to the committee. Do they want to pursue it?
How did this originally start? That's what we're saying.
That started when we did our brainstorming. Parklets was one of the main issues. It came in at number 5. And we did the 4 subcommittees,
wasn't
we had
it
5.
wasn't-
But it was the next big big item on our brainstorming list. was
But I think it was kind of like Dave was saying, it wasn't that we were trying to generate more.
Right,
Frustration was the ones that had popped up originally and to try and get something around that as in, because I know what you call it, they were getting pushed where they were gonna have to tear those down on Station 55, you know? And so that's when this kind of morphed into it. So I mean, it's kind of like a real spinning. I think maybe this is something that
yeah.
should be tabled or at this point till we're seeing that later on, there's that type of.
Well, see,
demand.
ironically, when it came back to this whole committee, no one made a motion to actually get rid of parklets or to stop parklets. The discussion kind of went in the way of, well, let's have requirements.
Well, I understand we didn't have a choice. It's up to the city that.
We don't have a policy, then we have nothing to enforce.
Council
We need a-
decision to go back with the parklet
Yeah,
policy.
We
that's
need a
true.
policy,
That's
so
right.
we have nothing to enforce.
So that's true. The council did say they wanted a
That's how
policy.
council puts things
So-
up.
Yeah.
No, if we don't have standards, if we don't have a policy, then what do we enforce?
I wanna.
Our
wanna
opinions?
just-
We have
wanna
2
just-
minutes.
Yeah, I want to just gauge the concern, it's
Yeah.
valid, so again, I think, Rebecca, it's where Heartland, outdoor dining, and if we decide to move away from that, what are some of the things that we can do for what we currently have, right? Maintenance, whatever it may be, right? So we're
Okay.
looking at different options.
Yeah, okay, but remember, the subcommittees, only thing they're working on are coming back with the requirements. If you come back with a different proposal to us, then.
So,
you know,
yeah, in closing, obviously, again, we're gonna need the city's, corporation and looking at what we've had in the past and see how, because I think that, the demographics is gonna be very, very important for us, right? So.
How do you feel about having an at-large person join this committee? Yes, no? Thumbs up, yes? How many yeses?
Yeah.
Are you okay? We don't even have a quorum on this one. Oh, man.
We have
okay.
4 weeks.
Yes.
Just to get rid of that whole topic. That, can we make a motion as, yeah, I mean, that.
And to only
focus on demand. Really, I think this is a big ways, I mean, Fred, you did a lot of work
Yeah.
and everybody brought it forward. I think it needs to be, we're not there yet. In regards to where the city's at. I think this is something that should be tabled.
Well, I think that goes against the council direction, right, to create a parklet policy. That decision has to be made at the council, not at this committee.
Probably.
Well, this committee doesn't supersede the
But then
council
that's, no,
decision.
that's what this committee then brings to the council.
So maybe that's what you're saying.
That's,
You're gonna go take it
9
back to the
o'clock.
Council
council.
sent it
Yeah.
to this committee, give it a shot,
Yeah.
not to come up with. just
And
give it a
Fred
shot.
can,
it's not working.
And now
Fred
it's
can
not
do
working, so it
something.
needs to go back
So
to
the committee can certainly recommend that the council.
How many of you would like to have it?
I'm
taken back
sorry,
to
but
the
it's
council?
9 o'clock and we
Yes.
cannot
Okay.
continue with the motion
Okay.
at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it was 8:58 when you proposed it, so.
Then we'll do the motion at the next.
At the next meeting. When do you want your next meeting? September or October? September. Okay, second Tuesday in September. I'll see you guys back. All right, thank you. Yeah, and I'll just put that out. So then.
Let me